Hello, everybody. You're at the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection quarterly Brownfield Roundtable. My name is Frank McLaughlin. I manage the Office of Brownfield and Community Revitalization. It's good to have you here with us in the DEP's public hearing room and also our friends online joining us virtually. I'm going to pass the microphone over to Rachel Stopper, who's going to talk about some in-house rules for this seminar.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. These are just some rules for some people who are joining us remotely. So please make sure your microphone is muted and your camera is off. If you would like to ask a question, please put your name and your affiliation in the chat box, and then we'll call on you. When you are asked to speak, you can unmute yourself, and if you would like, you can turn on your camera. And when you are finished, please remute yourself and turn off the camera. And also for people who are joining us remotely, if since you cannot sign in here, if you could please put your name and affiliation in the chat box, that is how we can track your attendance. So we would very much appreciate that.
Thank you, Rachel. First up, we have two of the people that literally keep the contaminated site remediation redevelopment program going. Without these two folks, you know who you are. And our Assistant Commissioner, David Hames, knows it too. So first I'm going to introduce Sana Qureshi. Sana has been basically interpreting between rules, staff, policy from our leadership in both on the 7th floor and Assistant Commissioner David Hames. So thank you, Sana, for helping us in Brownfields get through the maze of things we need to do with all of our standards and guidance and stuff. Thank you, Sana.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sana Qureshi. Thank you, Frank, for that introduction. David Hames, Assistant Commissioner for the Contaminated Site Remediation and Redevelopment program is not in the office today, so you have me. And I just want to cover three quick things today. One is technical guidance, just give you a little update on where we're at. The second is some rules that we are working on. I'll get to that second. And lastly, I just want to end with some reorganization information. As I mentioned, well, I haven't been here in a while, so I just wanted to Frank doesn't invite me to every single meeting. I don't know why. But I just wanted to just touch base quickly on what our technical guidance process is, just so everyone's on the same page, so I see a lot of unfamiliar faces. So site remediation has a very robust technical guidance development process. We form committees comprised of stakeholders, staff from other programs, as well as the site remediation staff. They work together to produce guidance. They meet in committees, they discuss different issues on various priority topics. They produce a final draft. That final draft is then disseminated for peer review to basically a wider audience to get more feedback on a particular topic, that particular guidance document. The comments are funneled back to the committee for consideration. The committee may choose to amend the document, to accept the change. They are free to not make the change. They produce a response to comments document. So if you've ever commented on a document and you jump on our website to take a look, you should see how that comment was handled. So then once the document is finalized, it's posted and we train on every document. So, that's kind of the process in a nutshell. Well, I will admit, I will be the first to admit it is, some guidance documents are years in the making. So while the process I've outlined is simple, the process can be long and meticulous and all of those things. So on this slide, you'll see new document development at the top and updates to existing documents on the bottom. Field Sampling Procedures Manual has been around for many, many years, but I put it in the new section because it's the first time it's gotten stakeholder review. It's been posted. All the chapters have been posted and they're available for use. They're working on some fact sheets. The committee's working on, it's a subgroup from the committee along with additional people who are working on a fact sheet related to PFAS, so that will be out hopefully in the next couple weeks. Perimeter air monitoring was also posted. It's on our website. It's the first time the document has been posted on our website. It's been trained on. Moving down to existing documents, the soil technical guidance, John Doyen, who I don't see, but maybe he's on virtually. He is the committee chair. He has been working on this document with his committee. They meet regularly. They're looking to get a draft to me end of this year. The compliance attainment document is done. It was out for peer review. They got comments back. They produced a response to comments document literally, hopefully, in the next 2 weeks. You should see that up on our website. The Historic Fill Committee, we have been working on revisions that the program is interested in, just kind of getting our stuff together, and then we hope to reconvene the committee this fall. We probably will evaluate membership, may reach out to you if you're interested in participating. I believe they might need somebody from industry. We're going to look through all that. I'll send an email out. If you're on my tech guidance listserv, you should get that. If you're not, I'm happy to add you if you are interested. Lastly, the TI and Analytical Methods Committees, they reconvened last year. They're working diligently on revisions. Chris Blake and Joel Verdell are the chairs for TI. Greg Toffoli handles Analytical Methods. If you have questions, please feel free to reach out. And just the last thing I want to mention here for tech guidance is that we have some 35 documents posted up on our website. Updating those guidance documents is a giant effort, but we want to also be cognizant of the fact that we may need new topics. So the next couple months, again, if you're on my listserv, you will receive a message from me asking for topics. If anyone here is, wanting to see a guidance topic being developed, a committee formed, going through the whole process, drop me a line. I'm happy to take that into consideration as we make a short list of new guidance to be developed. All right, next slide. I'm just going to do a rule update quickly. We have a regulatory officer who works in the Assistant Commissioner's office. Her name is Judith Andrico. She is probably on this call virtually, so if you have any questions, can they drop them in the chat? Yes. The first rule update is that on May 6th, we published a notice of administrative change in the New Jersey Register, updating residential soil remediation standard for the ingestion dermal exposure pathway for lead from 400 to 200. This standard was updated because EPA made revisions to its model input parameters on which our number is based. Next, please. The next one is the residential soil remediation standard for the the SARE 2.0 rulemaking is well on its way. The rule team is working on changes due to SARE 2.0. A lot of those amendments to tech regs and ARCs deal with permit process changes. We anticipate publication of the proposal in the register hopefully this fall. The rule manager is Lynn Mitchell, should you have any questions. Next up is remediation standards, and thank you, Rachel. Remediation standards and groundwater quality standards. The interim soil and soil leachate standards for PFNA, PFOA, PFOS, and GenX were published in the register on October 17th. We also published interim specific groundwater criterion and interim soil leachate standards for GenX on June 5th of last year. We're amending the rules to formally adopt these existing interim standards. I think that's it, Rachel. Thanks. So these are the rules that are currently on our plate. You might be interested in other rules managed by other programs. We're happy to connect you to other points of contact. As I mentioned, Judy Andrico is our regulatory officer. She can answer questions for rule-related inquiries. Her email address is up there. I'm happy to answer anything on guidance. If there's a particular topic you're interested in, I can connect you with the chair. And, at any point, feel free to email us. Last thing I wanted to just mention is, and I'm sure you've heard this from Director Zervis and AC Hames previously, but just to recap, the program is undergoing organizational changes. We reorganized to form 3 divisions. To recap again, Division of Remediation Management includes Office of Brownfield, Okay. Case management, publicly funded in our field offices. The remediation review element and the hazard site science elements will be paired to form a new division for which a director will be named hopefully soon. And the third division in our program is the division that houses enforcement, information support, and financial services. And I'll let our new director tell you about this division. I am very, very happy to introduce newly named Director Frank DeFeo.
Thank you. Good morning. I appreciate that, Sana. My name is Frank DeFeo. I am the newly appointed director of the Division of Enforcement and Financial Operations. One thing I'd like to stress is that I operate on a very open and transparent, type of management. So everyone in my division knows that they can come to me at any time, and I'd like to give you my contact information so that please feel free to reach out to me with any questions. As my phone number just recently changed, I don't know it, so I will get that to you or get it to Frank. I didn't write it down before I left. Let me just go over. Yeah, we'll forward it. Sure, right. Once I that's what it is. The Division of Enforcement and Financial Operations consists of two elements. The first element, the enforcement and case initiation element. It's responsible for program functions such as overseeing compliance and enforcement for all remediation activities, administrative processing of document submissions for new and existing cases. Specifically, the Bureau of Enforcement and Investigations ensures compliance with all site remediation such as laws such as SARA, the Site Remediation Reform Act, which includes key requirements that parties meet specific milestones related to investigating and remediating known and suspected contaminated sites. These are requirements such as hiring an LSRP, meeting timeframes for ensuring timely remedial activities. One of the most, through a variety of functions, that's what the Bureau does, compliance for CSRR. The Bureau of Case Assignment and Initial Notice is basically the first step, as you know, to a case, to reporting a case, and they are the central repository for all documents and checks that are submitted into the department. They evaluate all calls into the department's hotline. They process all mail reports and most importantly, checks received. In addition, they review ISRA submissions, including GINs and de minimis quantity exemptions and limited conveyance. For sites subject to the UST Law Act, they manage registration and billing functions. They process closures and issue permits for installations and repairs. The financial services element, which is the second element, provides all of the fiscal procurement administrative support to the program. The first bureau I'd like to talk about is the Fiscal Support and Contract Administration Bureau. They are responsible for all fiscal support, budget preparation, funding establishment, and general program procurement. Also, a very important task, they handle all of our remediation term contracts, bidding, rebidding, ensuring compliance for all the vendors, all of this through the publicly funded cleanup program. In that bureau is also the direct billing and cost recovery unit. They're a very important unit. They are the money that comes into the program is the lifeblood. This is what we operate on, and they are responsible for all direct billing and, more importantly, cost recovery. They are the group that has the task of chasing down responsible parties, many are who are recalcitrant, going to court, working with the Division of Law to settle many cases and bring the money into the program. Also in that element is the Bureau of Information Systems. They provide IT support for the program, information planning, data access, data sharing. They're also responsible for making available electronic and hard copy data products and documents to support the program, and in response to OPRA and the Federal Freedom of Information Act. Lastly, the fund management section. They have two very important tasks. They administer the Petroleum Underground Storage Tank Grants and Loans Program in conjunction with the Economic Development Authority. This is a program where if you have a leaking underground storage tank, they provide financial assistance to homeowners and eligible owners and operators of these tanks. It's very important as when a tank leaks, many homeowners, businesses don't have the wherewithal to remove the tank, remediate, so the program provides funding to them. Also, in light of the more recent PFAS issues throughout the state, the spill compensation damage claims program is very important. We provide financial support to homeowners in a priority order, homeowners, then schools and daycares, and then everyone else. As long as you don't damage yourself, that you're not the responsible party, homeowners can apply to the fund, and we will work with the homeowner to hire contractors to install point of entry treatment systems, or even hook them up to public water. And we also will, as long as they own the house, will maintain the system and sample twice a year. That's basically it. That's the overview. Thank you for having me here today. Have a good day.
Thank you, Frank. And the Brownfields program couldn't run without the financial support, budgeting, or EPA grant monies, HDSRF grant monies, working with our partners at the Economic Development Authority. So thank you, Frank, and thank you, Sana, for the presentation and for all the help in our Brownfield program. Next up is Rachel Stopper.
Okay. So today I'm going to provide a brief update on the status of the Hazardous Discharge Site Remediation Fund, which is a state brownfield grant. The HDSRF provides remediation funding for public entities, private entities, and nonprofit entities. So a quick update for staffing. We have 2 full-time HDSRF coordinators and 1 part-time. And I'm also very happy to say that we are going to be receiving a very healthy allocation as part of fiscal year 25. So the total amount in the HDSRF right now, we can add what we did not spend last fiscal year, which is $59,165,463. And then we are anticipating that we will receive $22,641,000 as part of our fiscal year 25 summer allocation. And when we add that all together, HDSRF will be sitting pretty at $81,806,463. And I should mention that that amount does not take into account the recommendations that DEP has sent over to EDA and are being processed. And then as far as output for this year, this calendar year, we have done $7,373,437 in HDSRF recommendations to EDA. And I actually can bump that up to 7.5 million because we just did a quick recommendation yesterday. Any questions about HDSRF? Thank you.
Rachel will be back for an encore performance later in the roundtable. One of the most important things in the Brownfields redevelopment world is having strong local partners. And Woodbridge Township has been a terrific partner for 15 plus years. Mayor John McCormick, who's been there forever, was integral in the McGreevey administration in the genesis of the Brownfields program and the Brownfield Development Area program that we'll talk about more later. And Carolyn Ehrlich, who will speak to us in a second remotely, has been many roles: business administrator, director of economic development, chief of staff. Carolyn's been an amazing partner with us for at least 15 years, and having consistency between the mayor, Carolyn, and the Brownfield Development Area case manager, Tony Finley, also working with them closely for 15 years, has been part of the many successes we've seen in Woodbridge. So, Tony, would you say a word or two about how it's like to work with Woodbridge, the mayor, Carolyn, et cetera, and the LSRP, Ron Harwood, who we've worked with in other projects too. So it's great to have a great technical team like Excel Environmental and Ron Harwood working with us too. Go ahead, Tony.
I'm Tony Finley. I'm the Brownfield's case manager, or project manager assigned to the Woodbridge BDA. I've been working with them for about 15 years. I've been working directly with Carolyn probably for that many years too, as well as with the mayor. We have developed over this time a great partnership, and that partnership has really led to a lot of success in terms of getting the sites remediated and cleaned up, and also getting them redeveloped. We meet regularly on a quarterly basis. We lay out the milestones, what we want to get done, and we go over them and make sure that we're meeting our targets. If not, we revise the milestones so that we could meet the targets. Sometimes the revision takes into account the technical, what we have to do technically. Sometimes it's where we're going to get the money, where the funding's coming from. Sometimes it's making sure that that I track down or run down some of the issues that's holding up the project from a DEP side. So those are the type of things we're doing. And as a result of that, I think we just had, this is just a BDA that just have success written all over it. And it's really because of that partnership we're able to cultivate it between Woodbridge and the DEP. And oftentimes I became not only like a BDA project manager to them, but the go-to guy in DEP. If they need something from another program, they'll reach out to me. If I could give them an answer or help them resolve it right away, I do that. If not, I'll get everybody, the right folks in the room, and then I just let the process take place. But those are the type of things we do, and I think that's one of the reasons why this BDA is so vibrant. So, we have a lot of success and things like that with it. It's that partnership that we're able to cultivate over these 15 years. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Carolyn and Ron so they could tell us, what's going on in the BDA and how much, they like working with us and being a part of the BDA. Carolyn?
Well, thank you so much, Anthony. And I just have to say that I give you almost all of the credit for the success of our BDA. Sometimes I have a picture of you. I call you up and I say, well, Jatembo just put in a permit application, and can you follow up on it? And I have this picture of you getting up from your desk and walking to whatever office it is where you see a whole pile of papers that have to be sorted through, and you take Woodbridge out of the bottom and put it on top. And that's how it feels it happens. And that is really having somebody strong advocating for you in DEP and having the help and assistance of Anthony is truly what made us a success. So, as you mentioned before, we were established in 2010 when John McCormick was the treasurer. He worked on the Brownfields redevelopment program and played an integral part of getting the funding, the corporate tax, to go to that. So he was very excited. He likes when he was in the state, when he created pools of money, he kind of liked when we could get some of those pools back to Woodbridge. So we immediately noticed that the section of town of Caseby, its industrial area, was pretty much one great big brownfield owned by having different property owners. and it was already a area in need of redevelopment. So it was a perfect place to start a BDA, and it just helped us to be able to get the remediation working done and the redevelopment and reuse to happen. So I'm going to let Ron talk more and more details.
There we go. Thanks, Carolyn. And just like to say also that on behalf of Carolyn and myself, welcome to the Woodbridge Keysby BDA, at least virtually. As we walk through some of the parts of the BDA process that we think were critical to the success of this BDA, and also some of the success stories along the way that have been achieved by the township. And I think it's really the township's vision for redevelopment combined with the BDA resources that's created, multiple success stories, within the township, within this Keysby BDA area. And that'd be great if you can move through the slides. You can move on to the next one if you'd like. And it offered an exceptional opportunity for remediation and reuse redevelopment to occur in a coordinated fashion under the BEA, and also to create a balanced redevelopment for the township, both all these former industrial properties to create both, warehouse redevelopment and also open space, which you'll see as we move forward through the presentation. I'm going to go ahead. And this is just a slide, and it's difficult to see, but this is just the basic area of the Keysby redevelopment area, just north of the Raritan River, west of the Parkway, and south of Route 440. Move through. And one of the most important components of the BDA process and what made this such a success is the township itself. And the township being able to provide the vision and the goals, ensuring consistency of those goals for the redevelopment area and how it fits into the township's overall redevelopment approach. The township has been instrumental in coordinating the redevelopment process and also bringing the responsible parties and potential developers together. But it's not only that, because we work with many clients who don't take the time to really understand what's happening in the remediation and redevelopment process. And I must say that, that's one of the key roles that the township plays is their active involvement in all facets of the remediation and redevelopment process to help make it such a success. Move forward.
So the steering committee is one of my, aside from getting everything cleaned up, I love the steering committee because what we do, we have quarterly meetings with all of the stakeholders, and that includes the property owners and their engineers. And we also have Bob Spiegel as a representative of Edison Wetlands, which is one of our most local environmental groups, and he always makes sure that we're doing the right thing and we're not hiding anything, and it's always good to have a voice of a strong advocate. And what happens is, one of my lines is how neighbors usually share things, but in the redevelopment area, they share their contamination. So because contamination doesn't know about boundary lines between property owners, it's there. And so having the stakeholder meeting, they can sit at the same table and discuss and share in the cleanup. And hopefully what we try to do is minimize the finger pointing, saying, well, this came from your property and this came from your property, because you can do that all day long and then nothing will get cleaned up. But be able to have those discussions in a friendly environment, and not to insult any attorneys, but without attorneys there, or before the attorneys have to get in there to decide who is really responsible. So I think the stakeholder part, and it's not only about the contamination, once they are into the process of the cleanup, as they do the redevelopment, and if they, for instance, if they need to share in a road and a traffic light, as they needed to do in two of our redevelopment projects, that is discussed right there at the table. So it's very, very comprehensive. And the people who make these meetings work, aside from the participants, is of course Tony Finley. And Excel has been amazing as our engineering partner in this process. They have all the lists of who's involved. They keep a summary of each one of the meetings so we remember what did we do, what do we have to talk about, and just always there when I have a question, and sometimes act as an intermediary between us and Anthony and DEP. So it's of vast importance that this is truly a great team project. Ron, you want to take it?
Yep, you can continue to the next slide. And again, we can't stop without continuing to sing the praises of Tony Finley, the Brownfield manager for the Woodbridge BDA. And he not only supports during the meetings and so forth, but he really serves as a representative of the department's continued support for the township's overall redevelopment vision and goals. He brings invaluable knowledge and experience about the regulatory process and really having a big picture mentality that can, assist and help incorporate the redevelopment into the remediation and really have it be a synergistic, process, as a whole. Serving as an advocate during remediation and redevelopment, as he mentioned earlier, facilitating department reviews when at all possible and troubleshooting technical issues, serving as a liaison, when things need to get done or, when, there's a backup in certain, administrative issues. Tony's been, a huge help and advocate during this process, which is really, I think, another key to the success of the Brownfield development area program. Go forward.
So as I just said, Excel and Ron have been very important, and they played a big part of this. But not all of the properties, but some of the properties in our Brownfield area have HDSRF grants, and Excel is our engineer for all of these grants, and he works with our finance department to make sure that the money is there for him to spend, does all of the paperwork that needs to be done, and then actually does the cleanup. And then when you have to go back and monitor the work that's been done, he reports back. And we had HDSRF grant, for example, at our public works facility. And we did the work, then we went back and did the monitoring and said, hey, it looks like something's not going away. Let's literally dig a little deeper into it. And that's all Ron doing that work and that expertise working with GEP, the township, and all of the property owners. So we're very appreciative of that very important building block in the process.
And the last building block, well, maybe not last, but just we can't forget about the responsible parties and redevelopers who are integral to the process, oftentimes providing site-specific knowledge, and oftentimes proactively cleaning up sites and positioning sites for redevelopment, either on their own or with assistance from the funding, and really effectively transitioning from oftentimes active remedial action to redevelopment, which is key to the process, and as a whole just creates a win-win for everyone, including the township, including the people of the township, seeing these properties transitioned into productive sites that can produce, tax revenue, and also, getting the people of the township back to areas like the Raritan River that they haven't been, able to really use for any number of decades, really. Keep going. Go to the next slide.
Okay, so getting funding, except for the two small township properties, has not been a big part of this, and because almost all of the properties have their own responsible parties, so DEP was not going to fund that. So I think it's very important to emphasize that a BDA is not about money. Its success does not depend on DEP opening up their wallet and helping us out with grants. The success depends on Anthony representing DEP, Excel, and every one of our stakeholders, because what makes it even more important is that they are opening up their wallets and using their money to get the remediation done that needs to get done. And in some cases, we're talking multi millions of dollars. When we get to the EPIC site, it's such a big number, they won't even tell me what it is because they know I'm a blabbermouth. So, but it has that benefit, and when we look at our redevelopment plan for this area, we see that vision that we put in our plan originally coming to fruition. And it's very exciting for us, and it's something that we're very proud of. And I'm just going to show you a couple of the projects that we've had. The first very big one was the CPV Woodbridge Energy Center. And this, as many people know, power plants nowadays is very, very controversial. But when we did this, it was probably pre all of that controversy, and it was very exciting because, first of all, brought on hundreds and hundreds of union jobs. It cleaned up an extremely contaminated site. I mean, extremely, and also it is for its time, and probably still to this day, one of the cleanest energy centers that are out there. And I want to show the next slide of what this looks like all lit up. You can go to the next one. There, isn't that beautiful? And instead of the second plant, which they were going to build, and that was at the point where people are saying no more of these kinds of power plants, and also the markets changed, the energy market and the financing market. So CPV dropped that second power plant. And instead of that plant, they are, and I'm very excited about this, they are examining several innovative solutions to reduce emissions of the present plant. And they're looking at some great things. I'm not allowed to talk about them yet because there's an NDA, but as soon as I get permission to explain what they are, you'll be hearing me from the mountaintops. It's very, very exciting, and they will be a leader in it. And hopefully, this new solution that they're coming up with will employ as much union labor to build that solution as the other plant would have. And of course, a big part of all of this redevelopment is for us to do pilot programs and bring in tax money. And that's another opportunity to create a really nice rateable. So also CPV was partners. They were really, initially, this was all one site with the EPIC property. And EPIC kind of kept half of it. If you want to move to, I think, a couple of slides down. I did that already. Okay, let's go here. So EPIC and CPV is one property. So they sold half of the property to CPV for the plant. The other half, which was extremely contaminated and had a very big wetlands that needed to be remediated. EPIC really kept that for itself so that they could clean it up. It included radioactive material, and they've been working on this now for, I think, over a decade. And basically, the cleanup is done, but now they have to finish up what I call filing, 2 or 3 filing cabinets full of paperwork for DEP and EPA, so that we can actually get permission to go out to what we consider the highlight of this project is the EPIC River Walk. And, but we don't have access yet until all of that paperwork is finished. But one of the things about this project, because it's 1/2 is development and 1/2 is remediation, wetlands, and passive, very passive recreation, is what we call the balanced redevelopment. You can have both and have it work well hand in hand, so that tax rateable is created, but also something very special for the environment and for the community. And for Woodbridge Township, if you can see in the background there, that's the Raritan River. Nowhere in all of Woodbridge Township can you actually go and have access to the river. We're also, and this comes from having the stakeholder meetings next door to this property, is Federal Business Centers. And they are extending the walkway to their property. And they put up a bridge so that you can go out and go kayaking, have a kayak launch. And so it's slowly going along the river. Tilcon, which has a different owner now, don't remember the name, as part of their DEP permit, they have to do river access, as is the norm. And so they are hoping to be able to connect to this walkway. So it's a very exciting and wonderful project, and totally because of being a part of the Brownfield development area. And a third one that I want to talk about is the Gentempo site. So the Gentempo site was a landfill, and it was closed, but it was what was considered a closure in 1960 is not quite acceptable right now. So they need to do remediation to complete the closure. Now, I probably had at least 5 redevelopers come and look at this property and say, we want to develop there, because, you know, there's such a great interest in building warehouses. People now, this has been a great push for brownfields, because people will start to take land wherever they can get it, even if it means remediating brownfields. So a lot of redevelopers came and looked at this property, but once they looked at it more closely, they walked away. So the redeveloper that we have working on it now has been working on it for, I think, maybe up to 5-6 years. If I may, and I'm sorry to say this, struggling through all of the permitting processes and things that he needs to do to be able to start the development. I'm thinking we may be at our last hurdle, and then they will actually be able to start the redevelopment. But this is where, because there have been so many different DEP divisions that they have had to work with, Anthony has played a major role. When we started, you know, he brought everybody to the table who would need to work on it. And he's just, it needed a coordinator, and Anthony Finley has been that man. And then the last one that I want to mention is Arizona Iced Tea, also known as the U.S. Beverage Packers. This was a contaminated site, which they cleaned up, put solar panels on, and I have to tell you, there is a challenge, and I'm sure that all of your engineers who are watching this in the DEP know about people who think that all the rules are there, but they don't apply to them. And that's kind of how Arizona iced tea was. We always had to go back and do things again because they just weren't following. So it was very long, a very frustrating process. But finally, they have opened up. They've created lots of manufacturing jobs. They have the huge solar farm on their roof, and they use the LED lighting. And so the state-of-the-art manufacturing facility that we had hoped for did finally come to fruition in an honest, rule and law-abiding way. And yeah, it's a bad picture of me. So, Ron, you want to talk about?
Yeah, and I think with all the success that the township has had over the last 15 or more years, I think the next step that we've been talking about is actually expanding the BDA to some other redevelopment areas where the connection is to the water in the township. With possibly expanding the BDA into the Penn Bell Road redevelopment area, which is just up and to the right on this map here, and the Sea Warren redevelopment area. It just makes, we just want to build on the success that the township has had to date and, move forward, as sites within the existing BDA are finished, with the remediation and redevelopment, to put us in the next direction. And if you want to go to the next slide, this is just a, view of the Sea Warren redevelopment area, and a brand new tiki bar and pavilion and so forth that the township is
Ron,
rapidly finishing.
Ron, we opened it up last night to rave reviews. So
oh, excellent.
Come to Sea Warren along Cliff Road and enjoy a great tiki bar, which was accumulation of a major cleanup. If you had come down and looked at this even just a year ago, it just looked like a ground. It was a year's worth of cleaning, dredging, and this is just phase one. Phase two will be even more dredging and redoing the dog park, which is next door, which needs a little bit healthier ground cover than what we have there now. So very, very exciting. And so we're hoping that the rest of this cleanup can be part of the BDA. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
It was informative.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. Thank you so much, Ron. Does the audience, virtual or here in the public hearing room, have any questions for Carolyn and Ron? Say your name and then the question. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Esmeralda Vargas with the EPA, and I just want to know if we can get a copy of your slides. I'm really interested in those success stories.
You said it, Ron.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Tony, you've managed the project for 15 years. What questions could you have?
Not a question. I just have a comment. We did an EPA success story for the power plant.
Tony, use the microphone, please.
Okay, can you hear me? Yeah. An EPA success story was done for the power plant, so you probably should have that somewhere in EPA. I forgot who I was working with. One last thing I want to add, when we're working on this BDA, one of the things I like about it is because of different type of projects that we are doing. And we had some open space. We had the power plant, which was really crazy because when we were first doing the power plant, we're doing the cleanup. I go, yeah, no problem. I could handle that. But I don't know anything about the redevelopment of a power plant. So, just coming on and working with the township, working with the developers, you just learn a lot. And, just by getting your feet wet and, jumping in and just willing to help, that's what makes a lot of these projects, very successful. There, the Eco Park, I usually refer to it as Eco Park, that's going to come online pretty soon. And when that comes online, it's really going to make that area phenomenal. It's going to do a lot for the town. It's give them, like Carolyn said, it's going to give them access to the river for the first time in decades. So all of those good things is, what happens when, we have a BDA and we could have that partnership. So I just wanted to add that.
Okay, Elizabeth, go ahead.
I think it was really interesting how Caroline commented on the Brownfield Task Force being such an integral, important part of the program, as well as the DEP case manager, Tony Finley, and how important that is to making this program a success. I really appreciate that, and I hope that other audience members were able to, key in on that as well, because that's, the secret sauce, right, that makes this whole thing a success, is everybody working together. And I also just wanted to congratulate Caroline and the Mayor McCormick, on their recent award for real estate leadership, wearing my other hat from the Urban Land Institute. So congratulations, Caroline.
That's terrific. Thank you, Elizabeth. And yeah, secret sauce, right, is a lot of hard work and lots of meetings. And Carolyn, you've kept Tony very busy for the last 15 years. I can tell you that, walking the halls of DEP.
Your job is just not to let him retire.
We'll work on that. We have a question from inside here, from a former DEP employee. I would say retired, but he's not retired, just retired from DEP. Marty McHugh also was an attorney for us, worked in our enforcement program for a long time, and one of the developers of the natural resource damages program, which has been a success around the state. So, Marty, what's your question? Don't be like Tony here. Turn on that microphone.
Is that it? Oh, there we go. I didn't expect that intro, Frank. Thanks a lot. But congratulations to Woodbridge. I'm with GES right now, Groundwater Environmental Services, but I've been bumping around, as Frank said, the Woodbridge area for years. Started with Ernie Oros way back when with the natural resource damage work that we did back then in the restoration by the Italian American Club back there, and it's amazing what you guys have done. Is there and Mayor McCormick as well? Is there a plan to extend that kind of public access along the waterfront past federal business centers up to Raritan Center and up river a little bit, because there's opportunities up there too? So
yes,
I'm just curious.
Like I said, Tilcon, because DEP is making them, thank God, do public access. They are going to try to hook up with our walkway that EPIC is working on. And Federal Business Centers has, we've expanded it down there up until the point where they start getting all they have a train and boats and trucks. It gets just too congested to be right there. And that's really a shame, because starting on the other side of that in Edison, there's also a nice walkway. So, but being that you were working on the Pin Oak Forest, I can take a moment to tell you about what we're doing there as far as creating trails along the Woodbridge River. So we've been extending that through Avenel, and we're working on it with Rutgers. And Rutgers has put it, which will connect it to our Blue Acres area, where we have put a trail. And hopefully that will end up going from the Ernie Oros Reserve all the way down to the Penval area, which we just requested to add to our BDA.
That's great. That's great. I'll just put a plug in, because I think one of the organizations that helped fund that work was the New Jersey Corporate Wetlands Restoration Partnership.
Yes, absolutely.
And just if everybody on this, in this meeting is not aware of them, they're like a P3 organization of DEP's a member. A lot of companies within the state are members. engineering firms, environmental firms are members. We all pay dues into a pot, and that money is used to help with these kinds of restorations and public access projects, and kind of can get projects over the hump if you need, additional funding for certain things, even things like monitoring. So be aware of that in all your projects. And we meet quarterly, and I know Frank knows them. So if you need to talk with them, Frank can find out from you, and he can reach out to me, and I can connect you guys up to that organization.
Why don't you give the name again, Marty, so everybody.
I'm sorry. The New Jersey Corp it's a long acronym. NJCWRP, right? New Jersey Corporate Wetlands Restoration Partnership. And they've leveraged a lot of projects, and one being what Carol was just talking about. So.
Yeah, I can never remember the acronym. It's like corporate wetlands is the only thing in my head, Marty. So sorry. My apologies.
Just remember NJCWRP, right?
And maybe you can send it to us on our link, so we have it for the record here, so people can access that. Thank you, because I would forget when I got back to my desk.
Yeah, we meet right here once a year too. So
I wrote it down, Frank. We're good.
Thank you, Rachel. Always good to have a Rachel around. Thank goodness. Do we have any questions from our audience or from our folks in the hearing room? Okay, none from our virtual friends. So I will. I guess I'm up. So I introduced myself before. I'm Frank McLaughlin. I manage the Office of Brownfield and Community Revitalization in the Contaminated Site Remediation and Redevelopment Program. Thank you for your attendance here, and those are friends online. I'm going to give you a quick Brownfield development area update and update of things our office is doing. I always put this slide up just because I want people to know what a definition of brownfields is. It's slightly different from our friends in the federal government. It's industrial or commercial property, vacant or underutilized, suspected to have a discharge or known. I'm going to give you a very quick update on the Brownfield development area program. These are examples of obviously commercial sites that are brownfields. Both are beautiful redevelopments now. Next slide. So applications for new brownfield development areas were due today, and we've had a number that have come in already. I don't have an update on how many have come in, but I think we're going to get roughly a dozen new municipalities interested in partnering with us. I can't guarantee that you'll get someone as effective as Tony Finley for 15 years on your brownfield development area, but you will get a case manager who will work with you, like Tony's worked with Woodbridge. So we're excited to review these applications, and of course we have to talk to our leadership at DEP, and it may be a 60 to 90-day process, but we will be excited to start those reviews tomorrow. We also, in the last 6 weeks or so, reached out to our existing 26 municipalities that have existing brownfield development areas, and we've received many letters already as of yesterday to continue in the brownfield development area program. So we're also very interested in continuing our long-term relationships with the municipalities that have been in the BDA program, some since 2003. That eventually we will formalize our ongoing relationships with the new brownfield development area municipalities and our existing through an executed memorandum of understanding. That'll be after we brief up the chain and know our successful applications and the communities that are ready to move forward that we've been working with in the past. We are also working on an economic analysis report, and we anticipate that coming out very soon, prior to our next roundtable in the fall. Next slide. Thank you to our HDSRF section over there for all their work on that. And I just wanted to give a quick summary of some of the findings in this University of Wisconsin study of our HDSRF program. They looked at 135 sites that received remediation dollars between 2006 and 2021. So we have many sites that have been investigated, but in that 15-year time frame, 135 sites of all the sites that received HDSRF grants got some remedial action money. So our findings so far, more than $8 leverage for every $1 of grant money provided. That leveraging was both of other public sector monies. We work with our federal partners very closely, and their Brownfield grant program and revolving loan fund program. So part of the leveraging was public, part of it was private. Nearly 10,000 jobs on those 135 sites. Over 2,000 housing units on those 135 sites. And some of those sites are not fully remediated yet. Some of them were just portions of the site were redeveloped. And over 500 acres of new open space. As you saw, part of one, which is almost opening in Woodbridge. Next slide. We have a climate crisis that we're dealing with, and we're going to be needing to redevelop and recycle land if we are going to successfully address our climate crisis. I was just last night, I was looking at pictures from Vermont, a place that I've skied with myself and my family, and they just had their third 1,000-year storm in 12 months. These communities that have been around, these beautiful little valley communities have been around many of them since the 1800s. They've never seen precipitation like this. And to see those pictures again last night after seeing them the week before and seeing them last July, but we're experiencing the same things here. We haven't been fortunate this year so far, but we're going into peak of hurricane season, August, September, and October. So hopefully we'll dodge the worst of those tropical systems this year, but we are much more vulnerable to those tropical systems, both through sea level rise, storm surge, and the precipitation from them. I'm showing you the 100-year floodplain and our Kramer Hill Brownfield development area and the North Camden Brownfield development area in Camden. And Camden's not unique. Many of our brownfields and brownfield development areas are located along river systems or in tidal areas, and they are vulnerable, but that is also an opportunity because when we do brownfield redevelopment, we can build higher. We can build climate resiliency and climate adaptation and place those elements on those sites. Tony, just next to Woodbridge, we were there this fall at Sayreville, the old National Lead property, and that property got really hit hard by Sandy in 2012, and they're building as high as 23 feet above sea level on that property, right? Because we learned a lesson, and we don't want to have these beautiful redevelopment projects threatened by the future climate. So we're going to need to be building towards the future. And again, this is a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. We can do it right, and we should do it right when we do brownfields redevelopment. Next slide. This is a Superfund site in Bridgewater, New Jersey, along the Raritan River, upstream from Woodbridge. So I don't want anybody to think this is Woodbridge, but this is Bridgewater Township. This is the old American Cyanamid Superfund site. The Raritan River is off, in the bigger picture, off to the left, like a half a mile. So American Cyanamid was built in a floodplain. Unfortunately, one of the redevelopment projects on that site, the Somerset Patriots, is flooded there. You can see that. So again, we need to be building towards the future when we remediate and redevelop properties. That was a RCRA hazardous waste lagoon that got compromised during Hurricane Irene. And since Hurricane Floyd in 1999, I think they've had 5 1,000-year flood events along the Raritan River in Bridgewater, Manville. Bound has thankfully has levees now to protect it, but there's many other communities along the Raritan River vulnerable. And this is inland flooding as opposed to tidal flooding that I was showing you primarily in Camden. Next slide. And that, by the way, that's go back, Rachel, for just a quick second. So we have enough problems with our New Jersey Transit commuting situation with the heat and line sagging and people taking Ubers out of New York because they can't get a train through New Jersey. Well, this is the Raritan Valley line that goes through Union County, Somerset County, and obviously you're not making that commute when we have storm events like that. So when the Raritan floods, knocks out our commuter friends along that line, and even the heat now is causing many delays this summer in our transit system. So next slide. Go ahead, Tony. That's Interstate 287. Yes, in the foreground. Yep. So we have some not me, but my small program has some GIS capabilities. So we just we took the number of known contaminated sites and put on the FEMA 100-year flood and the 2100 sea level rise. Again, this is not official department. We have a great climate program, water and land management program. They are doing this work right now. The inland flood rules just recently came out. Other climate related regulations and guidance is coming out, but just to look at the known contaminated site list, over 12,000 sites, about 30% are vulnerable currently. Currently, the way the 100-year floodplain is mapped in the inland areas and sea level rise 2100. Now these are just back of the envelope estimates. We already know that the inland flooding from the situation in Vermont, the situation I just showed you in Bridgewater is much worse than is mapped, that the storm events are obviously now beyond 500-year flood events. So a lot of our existing sites, but our future brownfield sites are in climate vulnerable areas. That's a take-home message, and there'll be more detailed maps coming out by the programs that run this soon, and we will layer on the known contaminated sites to that, to those future maps. Next slide. We have guidance. Sana was talking about guidance earlier from our program. We actually have green, sustainable, resilient remediation guidance that came out in September 2023. And by the way, our friends at the Economic Development Authority have green remediation guidance. So both agencies are pushing for green practices in our site investigation, remediation, and redevelopment work. And even though we are not requiring it, we are strongly encouraging it. And so we should be, not only for the examples I showed earlier, but because our agencies are now strongly encouraging the use of sustainable, resilient remediation. So our website there, sorry, it's cut off at the bottom. You can check. It's only a 4-page guidance document. And I'll show the next slide, please. So some of the statutory basis for the department's establishment of this green, sustainable, resilient remediation policy. It's in the tech regs, it's in the ARC rules, and it was in the Brownfields Act. Again, encouraging was the terminology used, but with all the climate-related statutes, regulations coming down the road, I think these things are, for planning purposes now, we should be doing green, sustainable, resilient remediation and building to the or preparing our sites to be not impacted by the changing climate and sea levels and inland flooding issues. And by the way, in highlighted in yellow, the use of green and sustainable remediation practices shall not alter the requirement that remediation be protective of human health and the environment. So we can do both, right? We can protect the environment and public health while building towards the future. Next slide. I'm happy to take any questions if we have time. Any questions from inside or from our virtual audience? Shane, this will cut into your presentation. No, I won't.
Hey, Frank, this is Rick. How are you?
So Shanine Mitchell from U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, Region 2. Sorry.
Just wondering when you have an estimate of when you're going to expect to announce the new BDAs?
About probably going to be a 90-day process. We have to do our internal reviews first, and then there'll be some briefing and discussions and stuff like that. So I'm going to say 90 days. Not entirely in my control, though.
The economic analysis report that you mentioned, is it open to the public, and can you share that?
It is in final internal review now, and when my managers tell me I can share it, we will certainly be happy to share it. Any other questions in our audience? Any questions from our virtual friends? Okay. Next up, somewhere in the ether is Ann Lazo.
So actually, Ann can't join us today. Something came up.
Oh.
And so we're going to skip directly to EDA with Elizabeth.
Okay, I just want to say about BCON, Brownfield Coalition of the Northeast. They have their conference, September 24, 25, I think it is. It's called the Northeast Sustainable Communities Workshop, and that's in Morristown. So that's a really nice event to get like-minded folks together to talk about our current communities and our future communities. So sorry, we'll invite Ann back for another presentation. So I'm going to hand it over to Elizabeth Limbrick of the New Jersey Economic Development Authority.
Thank you, Frank. So first, I'm going to see if anybody here has looked at my email signature or Barbara's email signature this past calendar year. So EDA is celebrating a big milestone. Does anybody know what anniversary it is for us? What'd you say? 20? Double. We are at 50 years. So we are really excited and just wanted to share that with you guys. And that our official date that we were signed into law was August 7th, 50 years ago. But what I am here to share with you guys today that I'm sure you're most interested in is another piece of legislation. It is Bill A4619. Again, that's Assembly Bill A4619. It was sponsored by Assemblywoman Elena Pintor-Marin. It has many improvements to both the Brownfield Redevelopment Incentive Program as well as our historic preservation tax credit as well. So this passed both houses of the legislature on June 28th. And right now it has been sent over to the governor, Governor Murphy, for his action. We don't usually comment on pending legislation, but what I can do is tell you some of the things that were in the bill. It would require, at least for the Brownfield side, that we update our rules in order for anything to take effect that's in the legislation. So there were some really big major changes in the legislation. First of all, And this kind of harkens back to something we heard Frank, the other Frank, DeFeo, speak earlier about. It expands the eligibility for our program to include folks that did not discharge. So similar to what we heard about like homeowners being eligible under the petroleum underground storage tank as long as they didn't cause the discharge. This legislation would make a similar kind of change because under the current program, it says that somebody who's in any way responsible is not eligible, and under the New Jersey Spill Act, once you own a property, in 99% of the cases, you've become responsible. So this basically opens it up to property owners as long as they weren't the discharger. It also broadened the definition of brownfield site. So Frank, you actually talked earlier about the New Jersey definition of a brownfield site that limits it to current or former commercial or industrial properties. So that is what's in the existing law, but this bill would change that for this program, and it would open it up to all real property in the state of New Jersey that either has contamination, blah, blah, blah. But it takes out that part about the being former, current, or commercial or industrial property. So they're really opening the aperture, right, to allow a lot more folks to take advantage of this program, and I think that's terrific. The project financing gap. So we saw a lot of applicants struggle with that requirement in the existing program. The new bill contains language that would say for small projects that have remediation costs less than $5 million would no longer have to pass a project financing gap test. In addition, any brownfield sites that are in what we call our government restricted municipalities, GRMs for short, which happen to be Atlantic City, Trenton, and Patterson, so those three cities, any size project no longer has the project financing gap test. There's some other changes. I think that gets a little far in the weeds there. But another big change is we were a competitive program, meaning we would have to open a round of applications, take all the applications, score them, all that kind of stuff. This would change it to allow for rolling applications. So instead of, applicants having to wait on EDA for when a round was open, applicants would come in as they're ready. And then if we start to get oversubscribed, then we would revert back to a competitive program. But we are well funded right now, so I think that's a good thing. Still have to meet a minimum score, so there will still be some scoring involved. Huge, big news here. Increase the award amounts. Right? So we were at, depending on where you were located, either 50% of your remediation costs up to a cap of $4 million or 60% up to $8 million. The new numbers in the bill would make it 60% up to $8 million or 80% up to $12 million. So big boost. And the legislature also added a provision for solar on landfills. So that's a big change. It would allow for the improvement and capping of landfills that are associated with a solar development. And that award would actually be 100% of the remediation costs up to the $12 million cap. I think there was also a provision, depending on where you were, it was either $8 million or $12 million cap. And I know one thing people are always interested in, so I did want to share, there were no changes made to prevailing wage. So that stayed as is. So those were really the major things. A couple of the other things, just in case people really want to know. It did allow, the legislation does have a provision in there that would allow for emergency rules. That's what we like to call them at EDA. I think they're actually called special adoption, which means that as soon as the rules are filed with the Office of Administrative Law for publishing, that they become effective. That's great. However, we still have to write the rules in order to get there, and we have to get in the queue at EDA. We have a lot of other programs at EDA, so the timing on this, because people are, very interested, assuming that, that the governor would sign the legislation, probably up to a year from now before we get to that stage where we would be accepting applications. Just other minor things, the redevelopment project definition was streamlined, and so it really just talks about the remediation now rather than the whole project, unless you want to come in as a whole project, and then we can look at the whole project. Your letter of support and resolution from City Council got moved so that it's a little later in the process. Also expanded to allow remediation to start prior to application. Does not mean you're getting paid for that, but if there were certain things, like DEP said, you had to start remediation to correct or prevent the spread of a health, safety, or other hazard, that would no longer disqualify you for the program. And I just want to say on that, like that kind of covers the major stuff. So I don't know if you guys have any questions on that piece before I share any other updates with you.
Hi, Elizabeth. I have a question.
Yes.
These are all very exciting changes.
Yeah.
I have a question about that solar on landfill incentive.
Yes.
So could the developer demonstrate a leveraged funding source like the 75% renewable energy grant through HDSRF and then use BRIP for the 25%?
I think we'll have to figure that out in the rules, but as I see it right now, I don't see anything that would exclude that from happening. I think that would be a good use. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a good way to do it.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Other questions? All right, well, we are really looking forward to implementing these changes, should the governor choose to sign that bill. The other thing I did want to mention, as Frank just talked about the Northeast Sustainable Communities Workshop that BCON is doing, we are looking forward to being at that conference, and we're really excited that BCON selected New Jersey this year to have the conference, because it really is, this regional conference. So excited that it's coming here. Hope all of you New Jersey people come out, and we will see you there. And then there's another conference I did want to mention as well, the Governor's Housing and Economic Development Conference, which is in Atlantic City, September 17th and 18th. Barbara and I plan to be there, Barbara Vadney from EDA, who's in the back. We're looking forward to that conference. We're even right now talking about potentially putting together sort of a networking, matchmaking session there. Still in the works, but what we would envision is an opportunity for folks who might be potential applicants for the Brownfield tax credit program and the folks that would help support them in the process, things like tax credit brokers, tax credit consultants, syndicators, folks like that, and having them have an opportunity to get to know each other and meet each other there.
Can you share that information, Elizabeth, with
Rachel?
With us? Yeah.
Yes. So once we know that we're doing it, for sure, but in the meantime, I can at least send you information on the Governor's Housing and Economic Development Conference.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. That's all I have.
Any questions for Elizabeth? I mean, this is the person, the agency giving out monies for brownfield redevelopment, and it's really great that you've expanded the Brownfield Redevelopment Incentive Program. We really enjoy working with you and Barbara and the team on that program. And do you want to mention any successes or grantees so far in that program, Elizabeth, while we have a minute or two?
Under the first round, we have one applicant that was approved by our board, which was 99 Main Avenue in Elmwood Park, New Jersey. So, we're hoping to really build and continue upon that success. I think there are some additional applicants who are in that first round that are now looking at this bill and waiting to see what to do, because honestly, if they come back in at a later time, they could get more money. So I think we may see that in some of these.
I think that makes sense for one of the projects that we've been reviewing together.
Yeah.
Any other questions virtually? No? Well, let's take our break now. We're supposed to start back at 11:20. Why don't we start back at 11:15? 20 minutes might be too long. So we'll start back at 11:15. Give everybody a chance to stretch their legs. Thank you. We'll see you at 11:15. So 11:15, we're going to get started again. You're connected to the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection quarterly Brownfield Roundtable. My name is Frank McLaughlin. I manage the Office of Brownfield Community Revitalization. Thank you for our audience here in Trenton and our virtual audience, wherever they are. Our next speaker is one of our partners for a long, long time, Shanine Mitchell from the United States Environmental Protection Agency, Region 2. So it's always good to see Shanine. We're going to try to shake her pockets for some additional New Jersey money to invest in brownfields, and ask her many questions about brownfields dollars coming to our state. Thanks, Shanine.
Thank you, Frank. And you can shake those pockets. I don't know what's going to come out. It's probably like copper stuff, but we'll try our best. So good morning, everybody. My name is Shanine Mitchell. I'm the Regional Brownfields Coordinator. I also coordinate our regional job training program as well, but all this work that's done with the team. So I just want to introduce the staff that's here in the room, starting with Esmeralda.
Hi, I'm Esmeralda Vargas. I'm a new project officer with Region 4. Nice to see everyone today.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Patrick Peck. I'm the revolving loan fund coordinator at Region 2 EPA. I'm also the technical lead for document reviews such as phase 1s and phase 2s.
Good morning. My name is Gritsko Erickson, and I am the GIS coordinator for the EPA Region 2.
Hi, good morning. Ricardo Barrios, EPA Region 2, project officer, integration coordinator.
Good morning, I'm Gilligan. I'm a physical scientist with the EPA, usually with HQ RCRA, and I'm on detail currently with Region 2.
Thank you all. And then I think we have a couple folks on the line. I want to start with Ashita.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ashita Patel. I'm the Brownfield State and Tribal Lead.
And then I'm going to ask Vince to introduce himself, please.
Hi, it's Vince Petrozello. I used to work with EPA my entire career, which is pretty long, and retired and came back to help for these guys with some brownfields and solar projects.
Thank you, Vince. And then I have Matthew.
Hello, my name is Matthew Crossan. I am a student intern at the EPA.
Thank you, Matthew. So as you can see, we've expanded our team quite well since our last meeting. I also want to just note that Yacasta De Jesus, who's our TBA coordinator and outreach coordinator as well, she's on vacation. Our section chief, or section manager, I should say, Terry Wesley, is on a plane somewhere in the sky going to a hot climate. So don't feel bad for him. And then we also have Sadira Robles, who's our land revitalization coordinator. So let's just get into some of the updates that we have, some of the stuff we talked about our last meeting, but just wanted to get into the grant funding and upcoming announcements. We're going to talk a little bit about technical assistance, and then our Superfund program folks, they spoke the last time, so we're not going to discuss them. So let's get into the money. Yeah, woo! All right, next slide, please. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Brownfield grant programs for FY24 and FY25. If you are a recipient of an FY24 Brownfield's Multipurpose Assessment and Cleanup Grant, congratulations. Our project officers are currently working on processing your cooperative agreements. So if you have not done so already, please submit your work plans and supplemental documents. If you have any questions about getting awarded, please reach out to your project officers. Then we have our Circular 128A state and tribal response programs, which NJDP is a recipient of. Project officers, again, are working on processing the cooperative agreement. So I am working on your cooperative agreement, Tony. So just be patient with us. NJDP is the recipient of $1.2 million this round. So congratulations to you guys. You're welcome. So just real quick, EPA anticipates awarding build grant funds by September 30th just because it's bill funding. Anything that's being awarded with traditional funds may be completed after September 30th. So just giving you a heads up. Our grants office is very busy this year because not only are they working on our Brownfield bill funded projects, they're working on all bill funded projects in the region, including our traditional funds as well, which includes Superfund construction projects. Anything that's due by September 30th, they are currently in the process of working on. So if you also have no cost time extensions or anything that needs to be moved forward by September 30th, we ask that you please get it in, but also to just be patient. So it might take place after September 30th. Go ahead, Tony. Sure.
Tony, can you use the
what?
microphone?
Do you think can you hear me? Do you think the outcome of the election would change anything?
As far as the deadlines for the grants?
Janine, you don't have to answer that.
I don't think so, because I'm like...
Tony, do you have a crystal ball? What's going to happen?
Anyway, it makes me nervous.
Move on.
Okay, back to...
It always could, Tony, right? Because new leadership, new things can happen. And there'll be new leadership no matter what.
Rachel, can we just go back to that slide real quick? And then for the FY25 Brownfields program, it will be the assessment, the revolving loan, and cleanup grant competitions. So OBLR, the Office of Brownfields and Land Revitalization, anticipates that the request for applications will be released in early September this year. So they won't be due around Thanksgiving. We're trying to see if that we can make that happen. So a lot of complaints about that. I know it's not the best time, but just start looking out for all of our notifications on how to apply for a grant. We're also trying to work on our process for the next competition. So we'll be sending out notices to NJDP shortly. Next slide. Thank you, Rachel. So our Brownfields Job Training Grant Program, the FY25 job training grants, the RFA is due August 15th. If you haven't done so already, go to our website. But new for this year, you can apply as a job training coalition, so you don't have to be a solo entity. If you feel like you're not strong enough to apply on your own, you could get together with 2 other eligible entities and apply as a coalition. Unfortunately, I thought they were going to give a bigger pot of money, but the total amount that you can apply for as a coalition is $500,000. And then new for FY25 as well, you have to, if you're an existing grantee, you have to draw down at least 50% of your funding by June 1st, which is already passed, but please make sure you've done that in order to be eligible to apply for funding for FY25, which is due August 15th. And I think we do have some potential applicants from New Jersey, which I'm excited about. So looking forward to supporting them in their endeavor to apply for this funding. Next slide. So also available are community change grants, and these are being offered through our environmental justice program. But as we explained last meeting, these are really community-driven projects, and we're looking for some really strong projects in the state of New Jersey. Right now, the application is on a rolling basis, but the deadline is November 21st. So the good thing about this particular program is that if you start to submit your application early, you have people that will provide comments on your application, and then you can reapply by November 21st. So we in the Brownfield program, highly encourage you to consider this community change grant program. We think it's excellent. A lot of the things that you can't do with our program are very limited in our Brownfield program. You can use the community change grant for all of those things that may not be eligible through our Brownfield program. And I'm going to ask Ashita, is there anything else that I'm missing?
Just to point out that EPA did announce their first set of awards just last week. So if you're interested in what kind of applications are being awarded and what communities are being funded, that is all public information right now. So I think about 20 communities were selected for this first round.
All right, so thank you, Ashita, for giving us that update. Really appreciate it. Again, approximately $2 billion under the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act. So please take advantage if you can. Next slide. So now we're going to segue over from grants into technical assistance. So next slide, please. So if you're planning on applying for those community change grants, we have technical assistance available. So please make sure you take advantage of that. And these slides will be available to you. Rachel already has them, so she will let you know. EPA has money available to provide technical assistance. So if you're unsure of if you're an eligible entity, if you're working with the right community, or who else you need to bring into the fold to apply for this grant funding, we have technical assistance available. And that includes application support, outreach and engagement, and just general capacity building. So again, please, if you're unsure about any of those things and whether or not you can use our funds as leverage for this particular grant, reach out to the technical assistance folks. That's what they're there for. Next slide, please. So then we have what we're calling our Community Change Equitable Resilience Technical Assistance. Again, additional technical assistance. It's intended for those people, those folks who are planning on applying for a community change grant. Basically, it's under the EJ program. And I recommend that you highly reach out to for the technical assistance. It's connected to so many different federal programs. We have FEMA, we have NOAA. You can also get more information on EPA's EJ screen and some of the climate change indicators. So really also awesome technical assistance that's available. And again, Ashita, am I missing anything with that?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you so much for your help. Next slide. So then we have what we're calling our EJ Thriving Communities Technical Assistance Centers, which are also really great. They are based throughout the United States, but for Region 2, we have the West Harlem Environmental Action, which is called WEACT, and they are a center that you should be contacting for any assistance as far as environmental justice, as far as applying for these EJ grants. As you can tell, we have a lot of technical assistance just focused on environmental justice. Why? Because we want to encourage communities to come out and apply for this funding and see how the funding fits into all different facets, including brownfields redevelopment. So we again highly encourage you to think about or consider applying for some of this environmental justice funding. Okay, next slide. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the Brownfields LR program and our technical assistance that we have available in EPA Brownfields program. We're currently accepting 2 new technical assistance projects, and they're due by August 16th, 2024. There are different uses that you can apply for under our technical assistance program. A lot of it is dedicated towards site design. Some of it could be community engagement oriented. We also have looking at new technologies and approaches to brownfields redevelopment. We also have brownfields funding and financing. So if you have a project and you want to know more about how you can do some stacking on that project, we also have technical assistance available to you. And again, all of this technical assistance that I discussed is free. So no coming out of the pockets. I don't have the coins coming out, but we have technical assistance available if you need it. So if you have any questions about the technical assistance that's available or any of our land revitalization programs, please contact Sadira Robles. Her contact information is below. Next slide. So next we have our targeted brownfields assessment, and we currently have funding available to provide free, again free, site assessments, cleanup options, and community outreach for any eligible entity. And our EPA contractors come in and do all this work for you, again, for free. So if you have any questions about TBA, and guess what? With the TBA program, if you're going to apply for an assessment grant, a cleanup grant, you could use this as leverage funding towards your grant. So all works out very well. If you have any more questions about TBA, again, please contact Yocasta de Jesus, and we have our contact information in the slide that will be shared. What's next? All right, next slide. So for FY25, just want to reiterate that the assessment, revolving loan, and cleanup grant program will be available for the fall. And we're expecting those requests for applications to come out in September 2024. And then finally, it's open. The 2025 National Brownfields Conference is going to be in Chicago, and it's from August 5th to August 8th, 2025. We have a link available for you to take a look at the new page that they put up, but there's no registration information as yet, no hotel information, just to let you know that the date and location for the conference has been announced. We highly, highly encourage you to come and join us at the conference. Why? Because it's an amazing conference. I think last conference we had about 2,700 participants. We expect more for Chicago, and really can't say much. You have to come and experience it for yourself. But if you have any questions, you can ask Frank. You can ask Jamila. They'll let you know about how wonderful the conference is. And we also have our wonderful project officers that participate in the conference. So if you have any more questions, please let us know. Reach out to any of us. And plus, if you are a grantee, you should have funds allocated for travel in your grant so that you can come and participate at the conference so you don't have to come out of pocket, because we're trying to save those coins in the pocket. So if you have any more questions about anything that was discussed in the slide presentation, you can reach out to me. Again, I'm the Regional Brownfields Coordinator, or Terry Wesley. He's our section supervisor, who I said is up in the plane, going to a hot climate, or any of our talented individuals that you see in the room, our project officers. They are amazing, and that's the way we support the Brownfields program and NJDP. So thank you so much for your time.
Does our audience have questions for Shanine or her staff here in Trenton or virtually? Just keep the money flowing, Shanine. Just keep the money flowing.
I try. Tell headquarters.
You don't have to answer Tony's political questions ever, just so you know. Unless you want to sidebar with him later, I don't know.
Yeah,
but that's your choice.
That is illegal, Tony. I can't do that.
Okay. Oh, I think we're back to Rachel Stopper. Am I supposed to be up there with you? Well, you start and then.
Yeah, I think I do a few slides and then you do a few slides.
You just tell me, Rachel.
All right. Thank you, everyone. So if you were at our last roundtable, some of this might be repetitive to you, but we wanted to make sure that we emphasize the importance of the current status of the nonprofit grant. Okay, so the nonprofit grant is found. You can read about it in the Brownfield Act. The specific statute is NJSA 5810B 25.3. It was added to the statute as a pilot program back in 2005. So this is almost a 20-year-old grant. Here it is. This is the statutory citation. I'm not going to read this, but I'm going to go over some important points. Okay. So as I said earlier, this was a pilot program that started in 2005. Pilot program means that it's temporary. And so once it's used up, that means the money available for our nonprofit entities is gone. This program is for tax-exempt 501c3 nonprofit organizations, and As I said, back in 2005, there was a one-time allocation of $5 million placed into the HDSRF. That money is used for 100% of the preliminary assessment, site investigation, and remedial investigations at brownfield sites. And so these are very similar to our public entity grants. And so in order for a nonprofit to receive this funding, they need to demonstrate an ownership interest and then also must demonstrate a commitment to redevelopment. So this chart, this has changed a little bit since the last presentation, but what this chart is meant to show is that we have one, if you look at the end here, the red bar, we have one application in-house that cannot fully be funded because the $5 million has been exhausted. Okay, and I think this is you, Frank.
Thanks, Rachel. Why don't you stay up for in case we have questions? Why don't you show the previous slide, Jamila, would you? So this, the nonprofit grant program, as Rachel described, was a pilot where $5 million was put aside to assist our nonprofits. Our nonprofits have been very active in creating housing, especially affordable housing, workforce housing, open space, and other things in our communities that have many brownfields. And as you can see from this chart, if you combine the 2023 with the last figure, so that would be 20. The utilization of our nonprofit grant has accelerated really rapidly in the last few years, and that's a sign that the program is mature, the program is needed, and now we've run out of money. So we need to sit with our nonprofit partners to talk about how we envision the program going forward. It needs, the crisis is we have no money to give you, and there's great projects that are in front of us and EDA right now that we would like to fund, but the pilot money is over now. So it's an opportunity not only to reset monies, but also take a look at how the nonprofit grant is and matching and other things in our current legislation that Rachel showed that I won't read because I don't know it as well as Rachel. Next slide. So here are some of our partners and projects we've done over the years. And last quarter, Sean Jackson from Isles talked about the Mill 1 project in Hamilton, and would not be possible without the HDSRF nonprofit pilot grant monies. And Sean showed you the Social Profit Center and the amazing housing of incubators and training that Isles does through that Mill 1 project. And we would like to see projects like that done on brownfields going forward. That's an historic building. Elizabeth Lingler showed us, talked about some additional incentives for projects like that. So there may be other ways to fund those projects now, but Elizabeth and I have been working together a long time, and HDSRF is a great companion to the Brownfield Redevelopment Incentive Program. We talked briefly about the Sayreville project earlier. That is a great HDSRF project with Aspire now. So these types of projects, having multiple agency and multiple program incentives are necessary. And I could go through the whole list, but you can see a lot of both housing and new open space projects that we've done. Monmouth County, Essex Hudson, Camden County, forming ARP Center in Newark. Everybody's been to the beautiful PAC Center. Or if you haven't in Newark, please go to it. Even a charter school in Teaneck. So these are important stakeholders in the communities we're serving, and we would like to serve the nonprofit sector going forward. So we need to talk to our legislatures and talk about a fix to this the nonprofit grant. Next slide. This is the Swimming River Park in Red Bank that we work with the Monmouth Conservation Foundation and Monmouth County on. So what was near the incinerator, not on the incinerator, but anyway, this is beautiful, right next to beautiful downtown Red Bank, if you get a chance to go down there. And by the way, the sea breeze usually makes it that far inland in Red Bank. So it's a great place to go, and they got great art and great restaurants there. So it's nice to have a little open space as well next to downtown in Red Bank. Next slide. And this is what Sean Jackson, the executive director of ISLE, showed us last quarter. This is the Social Profit Center, Mill 1 in Hamilton, right on the Trenton border, just as you go to the northeast out of Trenton. Next slide. So we're gonna have a Q&A in a moment, and then we're gonna have a special meeting. It starts at 12:10, specifically on the nonprofit grant. So we will talk more about that. Rachel, did you want to continue with anything on these slides we put together?
I don't think so, but I think the goal of the conversation that we want to have later today and that we might follow up with another meeting in the fall is, we want to hear from the nonprofit stakeholders, what do you want to see as part of a nonprofit grant? How would, not having a nonprofit grant available to you, how would that, affect your business and your projects? So, just some discussions surrounding the nonprofit grant.
Okay, so we're going to open up the floor to general questions, and then we are going to specifically meet on this nonprofit issue in following the open discussion. Do we have any questions from our outside partners? Any questions for our inside partners about topics we talked about today, while we have a number of the speakers still in the room, potentially virtually too? Okay, everybody's a little hungry and tired, I think. Why don't we, if we have, I don't know who on the nonprofit community is virtual right now. Oh, go ahead, Jamila.
It's from Rick Schroyer. If you want to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, Rick, go ahead.
Hi there. Question on the 501c. Is that also open to religious organizations, or are they somehow exempt from that?
If your organization is recognized as a 501c3 tax-exempt business by the IRS, then you are eligible to apply for that grant.
Okay, that's great, because we ran into some difficulties prior to that somehow they weren't going to provide funding for religious organizations.
This happened when you previously tried to apply for an HDSRF grant?
Correct.
Maybe you weren't applying for the 501c3. Maybe it could have been an issue with that. But again, if you have that 501c3 designation, you're eligible to apply for the grant.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Okay, so I don't think we have any more questions from our virtual friends, and nothing in here. So I don't know how much of our nonprofit community is on virtually, but let's, if there's any questions, follow-up questions for Rachel and I, or Rachel was collecting a list of interested parties for nonprofits, and we're going to schedule a separate meeting just on the nonprofit grant of our HDSRF program in September.
Right, and I think one of the reasons why we wanted to talk about this again is because I only had a handful of people reach out to me and want to be part of the conversation regarding the nonprofit grant. And so we're hoping to get some more people who show an interest in that.
Who exactly are you looking for? Because the Brownfields program, the federal Brownfields program, would love to support that. Actually, I was just having a sidebar conversation with Ricardo because Ricardo is now awarding Camden Lutheran Housing some EPA Brownfields funding for FY24. So we definitely see demonstrated success with collaboration from both of the programs. So if that serves as kind of like a success or case study for us to support you guys in getting more funding, we gladly, like to help out. So
Absolutely. Everyone is welcome. This is a stakeholder type meeting. So, if you are involved in a nonprofit grant, you are affected by it in some way, you work with it in some way, you are, of course, welcome. And we would very much appreciate that.
Thank you.
That's an excellent idea, Shanine. Thank you. And we'll take you up on your offer.
Not only that, but the other federal agencies that have supported the HSDSR programs for nonprofits. So if it's HUD, we can also try and see if we can get them to the table as well.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and everybody is super busy these days, right? So we are going to reach out to the nonprofit communities that we funded. Obviously, we reached out to Isles, and they came and spoke, but we haven't reached out to Camden Lutheran Housing, which has at least 2 HDSRF grants, probably for $100,000 each. And so you're building on work we've already assisted them with, right? And they may not be familiar with that the grant program has expired, or hasn't expired, but there's no money left. We have a question from Elizabeth Lindbergh from EDA.
So I had a couple notes that I just wanted to share as you think about this. So one is there was a reduction in the CBT, I believe. And I don't know if that affects the corporate business tax that's collected, which is what funds HDSRF. So there was a surcharge that used to be added to CBT that is no longer being added going forward. And so I didn't know if that would affect the total amount of money available under HDSRF.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Our allocation for fiscal year 25 is $22 million, which is higher than what we typically get. We generally expect about 10 to 12 million, so that exceeded our expectations. Yeah. And so I don't see a problem with taking, an allocation of that and putting it towards the nonprofit allocation, but I don't make that decision. But HDSRF is extremely well funded at this time.
And then, so that was kind of leads into my next thing, which is, and it sounds like you guys are definitely going to consider this when you meet with your stakeholders, which is, if do you want to carve off a piece, kind of like they did last time, where they said, okay, for $5 million, or thinking about the amount that you would want to dedicate just to the nonprofits, mm-hmm. And then also thinking about, do the stakeholders want to include remedial actions as part of that? And if so, do they want to put any guardrails up around it, similar to what you currently do for public sector grants where, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's some of the conversations, that we want to have. It's very basic things like, we want to make the program permanent instead of a pilot. So like our remedial action grants for public entities, we have a $10 million set per year to go towards our recreation, conservation, renewable energy, and affordable housing projects. Why can't we do the same thing, have a set amount that goes towards nonprofit organizations, but maybe open the door to remedial action money as well?
And then just the last thing, which feeds into the thing you just said, which is when you make it permanent, for EDA, and it's probably the same for DEP, but I can only speak to EDA. Once we go from a pilot to a permanent, we have to write new rules for the program and amend our rules.
Yeah, we understand. Yeah, that it would be a process that we would have to go through here. It's my goal to, attempt to make some recommendations based on engagement from the public and see where that goes. So, DEP has a process where they can propose a legislative change. I'm not saying that is something that can definitely happen, but I want to, make that attempt, on behalf of our stakeholders. But also, the nonprofit community can also reach out to their legislative representatives and, do the same thing, and, might even be, more effective. Yeah.
Elizabeth, I'll get to you second, Marty. Thank you for those comments. I think they're excellent comments, and that would be part of the conversation we'd want to have. And we want to talk to, you and your leadership about, you're going to a conference in Atlantic City to talk about housing and economic development, right? We're rolling out a lot of climate stuff here at DEP, right? So open space and housing may be some of our most important issues for some of our urban communities and for some of our nonprofit partners. So we look forward to you guys joining us as well in September, as well as EPA. And I heard HUD too, so we'll bring HUD to the table too. So thank you. Rachel will send out something within a week about some date options in September to meet. And we probably set up something like this where it would be in person and virtual. So because we know it's sometimes tough to get to Trenton for some of our partners. Marty McHugh.
Yeah. So
GES. I would just
GES,
say DEP, but I have to say GES.
But I'm going to put on another hat, and I appreciate you mentioning Monmouth Conservation Foundation because I sit on the board, and that was a big project for us. And I think you hit the nail on the head. I don't think the nonprofits know that the pilot program has ended. So I think if you get that word out there somehow, and maybe even leverage like New Jersey Future or something that has those nonprofits that work in that arena are usually members of New Jersey Future too. That might be a way to get to them because it was really successful for our foundation, and it's a lot of great projects that you put up there, and it really should be continued. So just a thought, right?
Yeah, and that's what we want to hear from the community so that, we can make our management and so that is understood, that is coming from the community and not just within DEP.
Right, yeah, it has to come from so I'll volunteer my executive director is going to be mad at me, but I'll volunteer our organization to make a plug for it too. Because that's a great project, the Swimming River, as well as all those other projects.
Marty, we really appreciate that. And I think they don't know, right? They don't know. And I don't want to say no to Habitat for Humanity or ISLES or Monmouth Conservation Foundation, right? Because these all groups are doing amazing work with very limited monies with great volunteers. And thank you.
Yeah, we don't want to have to receive an application and have the community find out, oh, you've been denied, we ran out of money. Like, we really want to try to be proactive about this.
Right. Plus, I bet you can expand the, organizations that would be interested in this as you do this too. So, just a thought.
Yeah, I know another gentleman was going to get on at 12:10 when we were going to have this discussion, so he may not get on in time, but he heads New Jersey's Trust for Public Land, Scott Dvorak, and Scott was one of Trust for Public Land, and Scott did one of our first largest open space project on a very challenging site in Newark called now Nat Turner Park, like a 10-acre new park in Newark, which is a spray park, and the usage of those parks in our cities is really tremendous, and so we're also going to reach out to some larger national nonprofits to have this conversation too, Marty, but we would love to have Monmouth Conservation Foundation represented.
Happy to do it.
Anybody else? No, I think we're going to give people back 37 minutes of their day. Wow. But Rachel will be collecting email addresses of people interested in this nonprofit grant committee, and nice to have our federal partners, our bankers at EDA, and some of our nonprofit partners on that. We will also email all the the nonprofits that received HDSRF grants. So they will also be invited because they participated with the program in the past. And obviously it helped them achieve some of their goals, and we'd like them to achieve their ambitions going forward because our cities certainly need additional housing and open space opportunities. So we're going to shut down the quarterly Brownfields Roundtable for the third quarter, July 31st. Thank you so much for participating, and we will see you probably in October, Rachel? Do we have potential dates?
We have not set the date yet.
Would it likely be October? So, yeah, August? Yeah, it would be October if.
Yeah, we should do it ahead of the Thanksgiving holiday.
Yeah, and will not be on Halloween Day because Rachel
I won't be here.
takes off for that, and runs some volunteer things with the DEP on that day. So it'll be in October except for Halloween. I'm sorry.
Yeah, actually,
thinking about that. We would like that.
Yeah, if we know, maybe we can base the next date on when we know. If it's the end of the year, maybe we'll have our Q4, early December.
We would like that to happen. That would be awesome if we could do that in October. We're looking forward to reviewing all the new BDA applications and reviewing the letters from our existing BDAs because we look forward to working with them and our additional new municipalities sometime later this year. All right, we're going to sign off for now, but thank you everybody for attending virtually and for our audience here in Trenton. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your summer.